Hi, I'm Andy. Welcome back to Python Puzzles. I'm just going to demonstrate how you can manipulate the virtual environment from within the command line. First things first, let's go to the Puzzle 1 Git repo and download some code to play about with. Okay, the link to the repo is in the description. Click the code drop-down menu, copy the HTTPS URL. As we're doing the command line, we'll just do everything via command line. We won't use GitHub Desktop this time. So in PowerShell, we'll do cd to get repos. That's the folder I'm storing everything in the C drive. And then I'll download the code by doing git clone and pasting that HTTPS URL. You might need to allow it through your firewall. So if I do an ls command, you can see it's created this console beginner puzzle 1 folder. So I want to cd, change directory into that folder. And if I do another ls command, you'll notice that there's a main.py file containing the puzzle. And then we've got a requirements.txt file. That's all the dependencies we want to have in a virtual environment. But there's no virtual environment folder in here. There's no VENV folder or .venv folder. That's because we actually have to create it ourselves in command line. If we opened this in a GUI, like PyCharm or VS Code, it would almost immediately create this VENV folder for us and download the dependencies in requirements.txt. But we have to do this one step at a time. So the command you would type in would be Python, and then we're going to use the built-in VENV module that comes with Python 3. So dash module VENV dash m VENV. If it was Python 2, you'd need to install VENV separately. And then you just put in whatever folder name you wanted. But I'm just going to call it VENV. So Python, the module VENV, create the virtual environment in a folder called VENV. And we're inside the console beginner puzzle 1 folder, so it'll create it inside that. Let's just hit enter. Let it do its thing. There you go. If I do another ls command, you can see that VENV folder's there. So let's just cd into it. Do another ls command. And we need to navigate into the scripts folder, because that's where all the activate and deactivate scripts are for us to enable and disable the virtual environment. So if I do an ls command, you can see there's activate and deactivate. So to activate the virtual environment in PowerShell, it's /activate. You could also use activate.ps1, just keep in mind it's a capital A. And there you go, there's a virtual environment. It's got a VENV in brackets to notify us of that. To deactivate it, you just type in deactivate. There's no need to do the dot and the slash. Okay, and you see it's gone. Now if I do cd ... that's going to take me back a directory, and then another cd space ... takes me back another directory. So it's kind of like how you're navigating through the files. Now, although we've got this virtual environment, we've not got any of the dependencies that are in requirements.txt in there. So the reason I've came back to this folder is this is the folder containing requirements.txt. So what I want to do is I want to run a command that's going to look at this folder and install everything. First of all, though, I have to, from this folder, enable the virtual environment, which means I need to run that activate script within scripts inside the VENV folder. So let me just type in a long command that's going to do that. And there you go. So from within that folder, I can type in dot, meaning this current folder, and then the VENV folder, and then scripts folder, and then activate. And it would be the same for deactivate. So now that the virtual environment is active, what I want to do is you could install anything in Python with pip, the sort of package installer. Using pip install, you could type in whatever, you know, beautiful soup or whatever, doesn't matter. But we don't want to type them in individually. We could open up the requirements file and see all the dependencies and type them in individually, but we don't want to do that. I just want to type in pip install -r requirements.txt, and this will look in that folder and install all the dependencies that are listed inside that text file. And you see, that's everything done now. So that's really how you manipulate the environment in the command line in PowerShell. Type in, you don't even need to type in the path for deactivate, you can just type in deactivate. But I just kind of want to demonstrate to you that in command prompt, it's a little bit different than PowerShell. So if I go to my C drive and then I go into Git repos where I've saved everything. Does ls work in command prompt? Nope. It's a dir command in command prompt to sort of list your files. So think of it as print directories. And there you go, we can see everything. So I can still use the cd command and cd into console beginner puzzle 1. And then if I do another dir command inside command prompt, you can see everything's there. You see the VENV folders there. So although we created it in PowerShell, it exists here. So I can suppose activate the virtual environment from here by going ./VNV/scripts/activate. Yeah, okay, so it's the same command and deactivate. But if I cd'd into VENV and then cd'd into scripts, if I type in activate, it'll work. I don't have to type in ./activate. I can type in deactivate. If I type in ./activate, it still works. So just be aware that there's some slight differences between command prompt and PowerShell, but most of the commands are the same. The command would be the same to install the virtual environment. The command would be the same to install the requirements.txt dependencies, but the navigation's a little bit different, and it can be a little bit more forgiving with using the activate file. Other than that, that's how you run virtual environments from within the command prompts. Okay, that's how you use all the commands in the command line. But I'm going to try to show you how this kind of integrates with the IDEs. Let's take a look at Visual Studio first. So we've went to File and Open Folder, and we've selected our puzzle folder there. We can see that VENV folder we've created there. Maybe it should have been .VNV, but I like calling them VNVs, whatever. You can see the scripts folders there, so you can kind of see it in the tree view. You can go to Terminal, and you can go New Terminal, and it's going to come up as a PowerShell command. You could hit the drop down arrow here and choose command prompt if you wanted to use command prompt. But then you could do if I click on it correctly, ./VENV scripts activate, and activate the virtual environment. But although the virtual environment is active in the terminal, if I open up main.py here, you'll see the Python interpreter down the bottom is still the system-wide version, but it does pick up that we have this VENV folder in there. So now that it's active, we could choose that, and now we'll be using the virtual environment, and then we could type deactivate, and it's off in the command line, so anything we type in now will be system-wide, but in the IDE we're still using the VENV. So there's not a great amount of integration here. You can run in the terminal, you could quite easily open up the virtual environment and then maybe do Python and then run whatever file you want, like main.py or whatever. Different frameworks allow you to run things from the command line and then appear in websites and things. So you just wouldn't like select run from within the IDE and assume that it's going to run the virtual environment, because in the terminal here it's listed, although you could certainly use all the commands I've showed you before to create the virtual environment folder, to install the dependencies, install requirements.txt. Just remember there's a slight disconnect between what's shown here and what the IDE itself will use. Okay, let's take a look at PyCharm. PyCharm will be similar. So PyCharm, I've got the main Py running, and you can see it's picked up the VENV folder, but it doesn't like it. It's highlighted it in red. So we can get the terminal open by clicking terminal here. I'll just do a clear screen, and we can, the virtual environment's activated, so we can do deactivate, and then we can do the same command. To activate it, and then anything you type in there, but again there's a disconnect between what you're seeing here. So in the command prompt, it could be PowerShell, it could be whatever. There's a disconnect between this being in the virtual environment and this being the system-wide interpreter. So what you'd have to do is, now that you've created the VENV folder here using the command line, and you could do this within this terminal as well. But once you've done that, you have to add a new interpreter, very similar to what we did with VS Code. And it's picked up the folder, and you're choosing, oh yeah, we'll get virtual environment 3.12, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't like it because the folder doesn't, it wants to create it if it's new. So you have to type existing and then select it there. Okay. And then it should import it. And then there you go. So again, the same sort of disconnect. You could deactivate the virtual environment there, but it's still active here. So it just depends how you want to do it. Essentially, with the IDEs, you would create the virtual environment using the command line if you wanted to, select them here, and then you would go into the virtual environment in the command line to do pip install whatever, or you know, whatever commands you want to do, or you know, if you had like a framework like Django, it would be that would be a command if we were using Django within this environment that would run sort of stuff. So there's a bit of a disconnect. I just recommend as a beginner, you stick with PyCharm, you download it, and you just follow my PyCharm video. I'm going to cover doing the virtual environments at the start of every puzzle using PyCharm. I just think it's the easiest way for an absolute beginner to go, rather than sort of diving into the commands. But anyway, these are the commands that you would use. These are how you would use the command line with the IDEs.